Bruce Stevens represented Manitoba baseball 10 times as either a player or a coach at Western and National championships. Bruce, it began for you in baseball in Cardale.
Sure did. Yep.
Tell me about those days.
Yeah, I was a lucky guy to grow up in Cardale. Actually, some really good people there that made baseball and hockey important, and it was important to me. So of course those people were important to me. A fellow like Graham Shaw, who I think is in the Baseball Hall of Fame, was a real go-to guy for me. He was the driving force behind both those sports, and consequently I appreciated a lot what he had to offer.
And you were able to deliver Cardale a Manitoba Midget Championship, 1968.
We did, 1968. That was a good year. My dad and Graham were the coaches. Graham mainly, but my dad helped out managing and so on. And we just had a bunch of farm boys that managed to kind of come together, and we beat some teams along the way that we maybe shouldn't have beaten, and ended up playing a Winnipeg team in the final.
You also saw some time with the Binscarth Orioles, so the Manitoba Senior Baseball League. Tell me how that happened. How did you end up there?
You know what? They had a really good catcher there who happened to end up with a bad arm, and Bob Waslin called this scrawny, long-haired kid from Cardale and to see if I was interested in becoming their catcher, and I did. So I played there for a couple of years. First year was mainly a tournament team that went lots of tournaments in Saskatchewan as far as Kindersley, and then the next year we went into the senior league. First year of being in the senior league. So yeah.
You won a provincial title?
We did. I think the year before as a tournament team we won the intermediate title, and then going into the senior league, I think the kind of the projection for our team was to win 4 and lose 16, and we ended up winning 16 and lost 4 and won the pennant and won the playoffs for the MSBL, and even went so far as to beat the Winnipeg team. So that was a pretty special year.
You've also had great success in the Southwest Baseball League. Perennial All-Star there, 5-time batting champ. Both played and coached with the Deloraine Royals. What pops to mind about your Deloraine experiences?
Well, I think it's like all the teams that I played on. It's the guys that are there. I love baseball. I think I felt more comfortable on the ball diamond than I felt anywhere else, sort of a thing. It was a place that I really enjoyed being, and I was lucky to get to play on some really good teams. Deloraine was one of them. Had some great guys there that made baseball fun, and we had some success there as well. We ended up, I think, in Wawota in '83. We won out Western Canada, and represented Manitoba a few other times throughout those years that I was in Deloraine. So yeah, I was a lucky guy.
Who are some of the guys you played with in Deloraine who come to mind?
The guy that probably is really important in my baseball life and just as a friend in general is Bob Caldwell. I went to Deloraine. He came there a few years after I did, and the ball team started to come together, kind of a thing. Dale McKinnon came along from Hamyota after that, so that was a nice addition. Don Morrison came back. He'd been playing hockey out west, and he came back home to join the family business there, and he was a good player. And we had a guy like Donald Dietrich, who was a young guy, but he was probably as good a ball player as he was a hockey player, and he ended up in the NHL, so he's a pretty good player. He was probably thrown in the 90s as a mid-teenager, and so any game that we really needed to win, we could always call on him. But we had a great bunch of guys, yeah.
And as many players do, you moved to coaching. Probably, I would suggest, probably coaching while you were playing some of the time as well. But you also came up with Deloraine's first Pee Wee Provincial Championship. How special was that?
It was. That was my first summer in Deloraine, actually. I think it was 1974. And I guess what was special about that team again was Donald Dietrich. He was a 12-year-old at the time. We also had Shane Moffat, who was a phenomenal player as an 11-year-old. He was a year younger than Donald, but had those two guys in the team, and they were kind of leaders of that team. And we, again, just kind of came together and ended up managing to win the province and went to Vancouver for the Western Canada. So that was a special time.
When you're talking about your experiences as a coach versus those as a player, is it a different kind of a thing? Does it strike you differently when you're coaching?
It is very different. I mean, I love the camaraderie of the team, playing on a team, and to me that was what was special. And I think I would get comfortably inside a team and really enjoy that. You know, the coaching part isn't quite as maybe easy that way. You know, you've got that pressure of parents and trying to give everybody an opportunity to play and so on. So no doubt I enjoyed playing more than I enjoyed coaching, but I got lots of satisfaction. I liked giving kids an opportunity to get skills that will allow them to keep playing like I kept playing. So that was kind of why I thought I needed to give back. I also did lots of coaches clinics and lots of times with Bob Caldwell, and that I enjoyed those as well.
Well, you've also stepped up to the plate, so to speak, as an administrator and an organizer throughout the provincial and local baseball organizations. So with that kind of an interest and investment in baseball in Manitoba, I'm going to ask you to tell me what you see in the baseball landscape. Is baseball growing? Has it got a challenge to attract kids? Where are we?
I think it has a chance. You know, as I was saying to you before we started the interview, the interest for fans in that certainly has gone in a different direction. I can remember I was saying to you before that we played the '68 championship final 2 games in Cardale. It was a town of 90 people at the time, and there were 1,200 people there to watch. And nowadays it's hard to attract people to the game. But I think baseball itself is a good enough game that it has managed to, you know, attract lots of kids playing and so on. But I think there's some challenges there for sure. There's just too many other things out there for kids to get involved in, and you know, hockey, year-long volleyball. I think all of those things have really managed to undermine baseball for kids a little bit. So.
And in terms of what baseball has given to you and done for you, how do you feel about that? Can you express to me what baseball has meant to you?
Well, it was so important for me right from the start, managing, you know, growing up in a small town like Cardale where it was important, and it was important to me. It grabbed a hold of me at a very young age, and I loved the game. As I said, I'm probably throughout my life was more comfortable on a ball diamond than I was sitting here talking to you. And you know, it was a place that was very special for me, mainly because of the people I got to play with, the teams that I was lucky enough to be on. It holds a very special place for me.
And now you're being inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Tell me what that means. How do you feel?
You know what? It's a funny feeling because you sit there and you wonder, do you belong, first of all? And you know, I find myself kind of being a reluctant Hall of Famer, I guess, in that you look at some of the people that are in there and you think, you know, you don't measure up to those people for sure. So it's very humbling, something I never thought about or considered, but certainly I'm very proud to be part of a group of people like I see on that list of people that are in the Hall of Fame. So yeah, it's very humbling, and I'm very proud of it, actually. So,
member of the Manitoba Baseball Hall of Fame, Bruce Stevens.